Yellow Springs potter Naysan McIlhargey sees beauty in the flames of his traditional wood-fired kiln.
Wood firing is the oldest way that people fired pots to over 2,400 degrees. The process of the firing itself is unbelievably beautiful. It's primal. There's something very basic and, in a way, scary about it. It's a real honor to be part of that tradition.
The kiln really becomes a living thing.
You can hear the draft, you can hear the expansion, you can hear the pots within.
We feed that energy, we feed that monster, and we try to control it, but really, the fire's the thing that's in control.
I make pots for 3 to 4 months. I give myself that amount of time. I typically have a theme. And partly for my own interest, because I want to work towards something and I want to have a body of work that reflects that thought. It's actually always been important to me to make functional pots. It's a dialogue that you have with that person when you use their mug or their plate, and it makes you think of them, and once you know them and have that relationship with them, it's nice to have that daily reminder of them. The kiln is roughly 450 cubic feet, and there's anywhere between 1 and 5,000 pots that can fit in the kiln, depending on the size. I always give myself 2 weeks to load the kiln, and that's 2 weeks of carrying boards out, fitting things in, thinking of the flame, how the flame's going to travel through the kiln, what glazes can go in the front and back in the kiln. You want the heat and the air to move through the kiln, and certain places of the kiln you want it to slow down, and certain places you want it to move through. When we fire the kiln, you'll learn about whether or not the decisions you made are the right ones. I start the kiln on a Tuesday, and it's just the preheat. It's a warm fire just to dry things out. And then Friday morning, I start raising the temperature 100 degrees an hour, usually by myself during the day Friday. And then people start showing up, and shifts of people, they take over. And we go through the night Friday, and then most of Saturday, and the kiln usually fires off during the day on Saturday.
My role at the firing has evolved into kind of leading the night shift, and it's my role to continue to raise the temperature in a careful fashion and make sure that we don't go too fast or too slow.
There's a danger in raising the temperature too much in the kiln, because a lot of these pots are going to go in the kiln, go in raw. You don't want to shock them at any point because they can bubble, they can crack, and so you have to raise the temperature pretty precisely. The ultimate reason why I wood fire is because of how it marks every pot. The pots on the very front face of the kiln, they're going to get the most ash because that's right past the firebox where most of the wood gets burned. But it's not until later in the firing when you start to melt the glazes and the ash on the pots where it fuses onto the pot. And that's the reason why we wood fire, is because you get those beautiful colors and unpredictable surfaces on every pot. The crew of people that help fire are really good friends now. I'm always really happy to see them. We share all the firings in common, and to get 2,400 degrees with wood is a chore. And we enjoy doing it because we have that sense of accomplishment when it's done.
I've never missed one. There's huge connections, friendships that have been maintained and stayed through the years, so that's always a bonus.
One of the things that I think is most powerful about the firing here is the sense of community, the gathering of people coming from far, far away and right here in our village to collaborate on an artist's work, and for him to allow other people to have their hand in his art is something that is really interesting to me.
Every firing is a learning experience. There's a few things that can damage the pots. One of them is cold air. The reason we have the two people on each side opening the side ports and closing them at the same time, communicating with each other, is to minimize the amount of air that's going into the kiln. The firing will end on a Saturday afternoon, and then we brick and seal everything up and make sure that when I say cold air getting into the kiln, you can't have a little opening. The size of a pinhole will damage the pots. And then Wednesday, I start unbricking the door. The firing was good because most of the pots came out well. Usually the front of the kiln has good pots, but it was distributed throughout the kiln so that most of the pots came out well. When I was taking pots out of the kiln, to see that bright color and to see how the combination of glazes and color and pencil and pigments was really, really exciting. The crew is unbelievable. I mean, they're the reason why every firing is getting better. We're learning how to use less wood, how to do things at certain times to make it better, the right amount of air to go into the kiln. And it's all from experiments of the crew helping and us figuring things out together. So overall, it was one of the best firings.
You know, they used to say that the pot is the man, and the more you know the individual, the more you'll be able to see many of his qualities in the pot. It's all there.
We've built a relationship because of pots, right? This clay has formed something far more than just a decorative piece on someone's table. There's this huge family connection. It's a family piece. It's a family firing.
He's really embraced tradition, and really, I think that's what great artists always do. They study the tradition, they understand the roots and where the tradition comes from, they develop the technical skills, and then they go on to create something new. He's done that.
He's still creating art the same way that they did thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. I think that's pretty incredible.
There's nothing else. I literally couldn't do anything else now in my life and extract as much joy from what I do.